Welcome to another episode of the Positively Insane Podcast with your host and spirit guide, Kevin Alexander.
Hey, what's up, guys? It's been a while since my last episode. A lot of shit's happened in my life since then. I'll probably get into that on future episodes, but for this one, I really just kind of want to talk about a few projects I'm working on, a few things I'm excited about and passionate about, and really just talk about, taking talents or abilities that you may have that you don't realize are talents and abilities and doing something with them. There's so many people out there right now who have unique skills and they don't know what they can do with them. They just don't know. They don't realize that they can take that skill and turn it into something that could potentially make them money. And that's been a huge thing for me over the last year or two, is trying to figure out how I can take something I'm good at and make money with it. So many things have gotten in my way, mostly myself, insecurity, self-doubt, all that kind of shit, has prevented me from really going 100% with these things. And I've spent a long time, or I spent a lot of time over the last year getting excited about things, getting motivated about things, and then turning around and, excuse me, I always get the hiccups or have to fucking burp every goddamn time I get on the microphone. But yeah, so I'll get excited about something. I'll come up with an idea, and I'll be like, "Holy fuck, this is a really exciting idea. I should sit down and I should write this, or I should make a podcast episode out of this, or whatever." And I just don't do it for whatever reason. Maybe I don't have enough money for the things I need. Like I'm a really good guitar player. I write pretty. I mean, if I had the equipment, I could record really good stuff. I'm not trying to fucking toot my own horn here, but I'm a talented musician. I'm a talented writer. I'm fucking funny. Not everyone thinks I'm funny, but enough people think I'm funny that, if I practiced enough and really went 100% with it, I could probably do like fucking stand-up comedy and shit like that. There's an audience for every kind of humor. There's an audience for every kind of music or genre of writing. I mean, no matter what it is that you're good at, there's an audience out there for it. But I spend a lot of time getting down on myself about certain things, because either I don't have enough money to do the things I want to do, or the ideas I have require so much work and so much time that it's like, do I really want to spend the next year dedicating myself to writing a novel and then just have it completely fucking flop? So I talk myself out of a lot of things, and I feel like a lot of people do that. And it's a shame. It's a fucking shame, because there are so many people out there with skills or talents or abilities that they could turn into something successful, and they just don't do it because they talk themselves out of it, or they let other people talk themselves out of it. And just the fear of failure or rejection, or the fear of taking that leap of faith and pursuing a project without a safety net. You know what I mean? Like, I recently had a friend call me, an old high school friend of mine called me about a week ago, and it was such a, what's the word I'm looking for? It was such a surreal experience, because here's a guy I haven't really talked to in almost 13 years call me up and tell me, like, dude, you are so fucking talented. Like, I mean, he praised me for all kinds of all the shit I had been working on in high school, short stories I was writing, things I was doing on the guitar, and he he was so convinced that based off of what he remembered of me, I could go out to New York. He lives out in New York. He was so convinced that I could go out to New York, and if I just spent enough time in New York putting my talents on display, something would happen for me. Like, that's how much faith this guy has in my abilities, in my talents, that if I just went out there, you know, if I just showed the world what I could do, something would happen. And like, it was mind-blowing for me at the time. It still is. Like, I've some of the stuff he said to me, I've never heard before, or I haven't heard someone say it like that before, and it really kind of lit a fire under my ass and inspired me to start fucking moving forward again on this shit, whether it's the podcast or my creative writing or my music or whatever it is. And if this guy, who I haven't seen in over a decade, you know, he started listening to my podcast, and this whole time, like, he's never forgot about me. He's been thinking about me this whole fucking time, and the shit that I was doing. And it was like I said, it was such a surreal. I didn't know how to absorb it all at the time, and I'm kind of fucking losing track of what I'm trying to say here, but it just made me realize I need to stop fucking doubting myself so much. I need to stop getting in my own way. I need to stop being my own hurdle. You know what I mean? Like, I got to get the fuck out of my own way and just realize, you know what? There are people out there who might like what I do enough to pay for it. And that's always been a thing that I've struggled with, is, am I good enough at what I do to expect people to pay for it? Because once you put a price tag on something you've created, I feel like people judge it a lot more harshly than they would if you put it out there for free. Except I've always wanted to record an album, but a huge problem for me is like, well, what if nobody likes it? You know, nobody will fucking listen to it because nobody wants to buy it, you know? So I would just put it out there for free. I would rather put it out there for free and have it reach its audience and be appreciated for what it is than try to charge $9.99 for it and nobody ever listens to it, or nobody ever reads the book, or whatever. But there's no way to break out of the fucking slave system. There's no way to break out of the cycle and break out of the fucking mold that everyone's in unless you put yourself out there and you try to accomplish something with whatever you're good at. And so I was like, fuck it, man. If this guy called me up and he said all this shit, and it made me realize, what am I waiting for? Why am I still procrastinating? Why am I still putting all this shit off? Why haven't I done a podcast episode in 6 fucking months? Why haven't I written anything in 6 fucking months? What am I doing? I don't want to work at a gas station for the rest of my life, you know? There are people out there who are legit telling me I'm good at these things and I need to pursue them. And that's motivating all in itself. So it's like, because of that, it really made me think, like, when you see somebody who's talented at something, let them know. Let them fucking know. Like, if you see a piece of artwork that's nice, or you read something that you like, or you hear something that you like, let them fucking know that you like it, because that is just as valuable, if not more valuable, than paying for it. You know what I mean? Like, that is an emotional currency that you can't get anywhere else. And like, don't just assume that they know they're good, because a lot of these people fucking don't. And just telling that person, man, I fucking loved what you just did right there, is enough that even if they don't make any money, they're like, you know what? At least people think I'm good, and they're willing to continue trying. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm really looking at every possible skill that I have, whether it's music, writing, visual art, comedy, or even just connecting with people. You know, I have a really good. I have a very. Fucking losing my words here. I have the ability to connect with people on a deep emotional level without knowing them very well. If somebody's willing to sit down in front of me and be honest about themselves and who they are, what they want, what they're passionate about, what their dreams are, and all that shit, I can connect with almost anybody. I can relate to almost anybody, and I can have them walking away from that experience with a smile on their face and thinking, you know what, maybe this guy's right. Maybe I can do something. Or maybe I am better than I thought I was. Or maybe I have more potential than I thought I had. You know, with whatever. So, I mean, that's an ability that I have. And I'm trying to find every little ability like that and just making a mental checklist of all these various things that I'm good at. No matter what it is. You know, maybe I'm really fucking good with animals. You know, I just have an ability to calm an animal and make them trust me and shit like that. You know, everything, no matter what it is. My point is, I'm getting sidetracked here. Make a mental checklist of everything you're good at, no matter how insignificant you think it is. Make a mental checklist. Maybe even make a physical checklist, because at some point you may think of something that you can use that ability for, and that'll eventually create some sort of financial gain or some other kind of positive outcome in your life. For example, my ability to connect and relate with somebody and inspire them to accomplish their goals, that doesn't really get me anywhere in my day-to-day life financially, but maybe I can take that ability and make a podcast out of it. And maybe that will create some sort of financial success for me in the future. Maybe it won't. That's not the point. The point is, you need to know everything you're good at. Everything. Because you may be able to combine some of those skills with something else. You may be able to make one thing you do better by combining other things that you do well with it. You know, I don't think I'll ever become a successful musician simply off of my music alone. Like, it takes so much work. I'm a really good musician, but I'm not great. So I would have to put in so much fucking work to become great just so I could make a successful living off of my music. But there's no reason why I can't combine my ability making music with something else that I do. I haven't quite figured that part out, but the whole point I'm trying to make is you can take things that you're good at, and if you really open your mind and be creative with your thinking process, you will eventually find a way to make money doing what you're good at. You just have to be open-minded. You got to stop getting in your own way. You got to stop doubting yourself. There are ways. I mean, shit, man. There are people out there making money standing in line. Like there's a guy in New York who literally his business, all he does is have people pay him to stand in long lines so they don't have to do it themselves. Like, you know, so if you want a spot, you want a good position in line for this concert or this movie or this event, and you don't want to stand in line for 6 fucking hours, you pay this guy to stand in line for you, and then you just show up when the doors open. He's so successful at that he has other employees. You know what I mean? All he does is stand in line. That's his job. And he's able to hire other employees because the demand is high enough that he's able to do that. There are people who make a living snuggling with strangers. You know what I mean? That's all they do. They snuggle with strangers and say nice things to them. There are people who pay for that. So no matter how ridiculous of a concept you think it is, or how ridiculous of a concept somebody else thinks it is, don't let that shit get in your way, because there's potential. But you also don't want to put all of your eggs into one fucking basket, because if that fails and doesn't work out, and you've spent the last year trying to make it work, that's going to be a huge blow to your self-confidence and your self-esteem, and you may never try anything again. So you really need to have as many ideas as possible. You know, even if you only have one idea, that's great. Run with it. Run with it as hard as you can, or as far as you can. But if you can have that mental checklist, you know, of all of your abilities and all of the various ideas that you've come up with for those abilities, if something doesn't work out, or, you know, it just isn't going to happen, all right, fine, cross it off the list, move to the next one. You know, even if the only thing you're pursuing is writing, that first novel you write might not do anything. So you got to have other ideas. You got to have other fucking things in the vault, in the idea vault in the back of your mind that you can draw upon, because you're going to need backup plans, because it might not work. But the more backup plans you have, the more likely you are to succeed. Because if you're a creative person and you are talented and you do have these abilities, even just coming up with ideas, the ability to come up with a new idea a day, whether it's a writing idea, a music idea, a business idea, no matter what it is, if you have the ability to come up with one idea a day, that's a fucking talent. That's a talent, because there are so many people out there who can't do that. There are people who have spent an entire lifetime trying to think of an idea, and they just can't do it. So, I mean, just because you don't look at it as a talent doesn't mean it's not a talent. Your ability to think outside of the box is a talent in of itself. So what I'm really trying to get at is, don't limit yourself. No matter what it is, don't limit yourself with anything, because you never know which idea is going to be the one that works, the one that really clicks with somebody, the one that really resonates with somebody. And so for me, what I'm really focusing on right now is the podcast ideas. I've got the Positively Insane podcast, which is always going to be free. If it ever gets popular or anything like that, you know, there's a potential for sponsorship revenue, but it's always going to be free to the audience. I have 2 other podcast ideas that aren't going to be free because they require a lot of work. I have one podcast I'm going to work on with my brother. I've talked about these in a previous episode, but in case you missed that, I'll cover them now. One podcast is going to be creative writing. It's going to be like an audiobook style show for stories that my brother and I have come up with. We were going to have long-running series that'll be kind of like an audio version of a television show. We'll have one-off shows or one-off stories where, you know, here's an hour and a half long short story that's basically an audio movie kind of thing. And the goal is to charge a reasonable price, you know, $1 per episode kind of thing. You know, if you get an hour and a half worth of content for $1, that's a pretty good exchange. That's a pretty good fucking exchange. And that's not too much to ask, in my opinion, for the amount of work required to produce the show. I have another podcast that I want to work on that's a similar concept, where I want to charge $1 per episode, but it'll focus on like true crime stories. Anything from children who kill all the way up to fucking I'm losing fucking I'm scatterbrained right now, but basically any interesting true crime story, I'll research the whole fucking thing. I'll I'll explain it in detail, and I'll really dive in depth into the psychology of the whole thing, because I'm fascinated by psychology, especially the psychology of killers or other things like that. And I think that would be a really interesting, entertaining show. Each episode would be a few hours long. It requires a lot of work, a lot of research, a lot of writing. Probably would only be able to put out one episode a month or every couple of months. So I feel like that's worth $1 an episode, because one of my favorite podcasts is Hardcore History with Dan Carlin, and it's such a good show. If you're into history, especially military history, check out his show. You can find a lot of things on YouTube. He doesn't require that you pay $1 per episode, but he strongly, he's trying to make a living doing this, and it's worth the $1. And if you can't pay somebody $1 for a 3 or 4 hour long show, I mean, fuck. How is somebody supposed to make a living off of their skills anymore, their talents anymore, if you're not willing? I mean, the biggest competitor these days is Piracy, which is a huge reason. It's a huge reason I haven't pursued a lot of my goals over the last 10 years. There's no money to be made anymore. You can't get rich being a musician or being an author or fucking being a podcaster. I mean, it's so hard to really make it big with any one thing, which is why you should have as many things as possible, as many different revenues of income as possible, and put them all together, and then you can probably make something, you can probably really build something to be proud of at that point. But yeah, it's hard. It's like, first of all, yeah, I'm getting sidetracked here. Getting someone to pay for it is really a big thing. How do you do that? I haven't quite figured that out yet. The only thing that I know is, if it's good enough, people will buy it. So you just gotta be willing to take that leap of faith. You gotta be willing to put in the effort and all the work, and believe in the potential. Because if it's good enough, it'll stand out. That it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a podcast or an album or a film or any of that shit. If it's good enough, somebody will find it, and it'll eventually stick, and you'll make something out of it. So right now, other than the podcasts, I have a few other things that I'm trying to pursue to bring in additional income. I don't know if I mentioned it before. I've started this episode probably 40 times and deleted it. So I can't remember if I've talked about certain things this time or if they were previous recordings that I've deleted. But I'm trying to pursue a lot of writing contests. There's so many writing contests out there that you can win money from if you win the contest. There are a lot of publications, there are a lot of online publications, magazines and shit like that, who will pay you like $150 for a short story. There are things there. There's possible income from that from that avenue. Also, I'm looking into publishing directly through Amazon Kindle, because I've been able to see people with worse writing talent than me. They have less talent than I have, and they're making money on Amazon. Every sale you make on Amazon Kindle, you get 70% of that sale. And I have flat out seen people who I personally don't think are very good at writing, and they're making $1,000 a month. That would literally double my income just from that. So if you take that avenue, and then you got the writing contests, and then you have the podcast and that potential revenue, and it'll all add up. The more things you have bringing in money, it'll all add up. And then if you get lucky and one of those really takes off and really starts bringing in that cash, you've done it, man. Like, you've made it at that point. If you can get to a point where you make as much money from your creative projects as you do working a full-time, low-paying job, I think I make roughly $1,000 a month. It's not a lot of money. It gets what I need paid, and that's it. But if I could replace my job with my creative abilities, as far as I'm concerned, that makes you successful. And you have nowhere to go but up from there, because you're just going to continue improving every time you write something or record something, or whatever you're doing. You're going to continue improving. And so I'm really excited about these things, because for the first time in a long time, I'm using my brain again to its fullest potential. I'm trying to think of every little thing that I can do and maximize it as much as possible. So these stories that I'm writing, that I plan to publish through Amazon Kindle, you could just take that exact same story, published through Amazon Kindle, take those stories and make the audiobook style podcast with it. So now there are two potential revenue sources for this same fucking project. And there's so many things like that you can do. And I was talking to a friend of mine recently who he wants to get into video game streaming. He loves video games, and he wants to start a YouTube channel and start streaming video game or his video game play and shit like that. And I was talking to him, and I was like, dude, if you do that and you get this channel built, and you start getting an audience and a following, and if you're good enough on the microphone, if you are vocally active, and you're funny, and you're keeping people entertained with what you're saying on the microphone, you can take the audio from your video game stream, and you can literally turn the audio into a podcast. So now you have two fucking products that came from the same fucking project. So you can maximize the potential without having to do any more work. You've already done the live stream. You've already done that. You put it up on your YouTube channel and all that shit. But there are people who don't want to watch you play a video game for 3 hours. They want to listen to all the jokes and shit that you say. They want to listen to you talk shit to 12-year-old kids online. They want to listen to that while they're doing shit on the internet, or while they're driving in their car. They don't want to sit there and watch you play, but they want to listen to it. So you can divide the same thing into two separate products, and you have two separate fucking audiences and two separate opportunities for revenue. You can get the ad revenue from the views off of YouTube. Plus, if you build your podcast and it becomes semi-successful, you have that other potential for revenue. So no matter what it is that you do, if you're willing to exercise your mind and think out of the box and really just be creative with everything you do, not just the project you're working on, but be creative about how you promote it. Be creative about what you can do with it. So you've written a book. Is that the only thing you can do with that book? Is there anything else that you can do with that same book to reach a completely different audience? Or whatever it is that you're doing, I guarantee you there are options available, additional options available that you just have to consider. You haven't considered it yet, because that for a long time I was stuck on just strictly writing a book and publishing it through the standard system that authors have done for decades. You write the book, you send it to a publisher, you send it to as many publishers as you can, you fucking get all the rejection letters, or somebody will say, hey, I'm willing to publish this, but I want you to edit or change all this shit. I was just strictly focused on the one avenue. And then once I realized that nobody's really buying books anymore, at least not to the extent that they used to 20 years ago, I kind of gave up. I was like, there's no money in that. It takes too much time, it takes too much work, and you might not get anything out of it in the end. That was just me limiting myself. That was limiting my thinking, because there's so many things. There's so many options. There's so many different things that you can do. So don't squash your fucking dreams just because you don't think there's a way to make money with it right away. Because if the idea is good enough, there is an audience for it. You just have to figure it out. You have to find a way to take that idea and maximize it to reach as many people as possible. And I haven't figured all that shit out yet. It's a learning process. But I do know, I'm 100% confident, if you do the shit that I'm saying and you really take all of your ideas and just like add some Miracle Grow to that shit. You know what I'm saying? Like take whatever it is you're good at and just think of, like, step away from the situation and look at it from as many angles as you can, and just think about, like, how many things can I do with this? And if you do that with every idea you have, and you are willing to put in the time and the effort to work on this shit, it's just a matter of time before you get successful, because that's how every successful person who has gotten successful, that's how they've done it. I don't know a single successful person who didn't get rejected 100 times before they finally got their first break. You know what I'm saying? So, it's just a matter of having your fingers in as many pies as possible. Not focusing on just one thing, but really focusing on as many things as you can without stretching yourself too thin. It's just a matter of time before you figure out how to break out of the fucking mold that you're in. And Joe Rogan has talked about this a lot too. It's you really have, like, if you want to be successful at whatever it is you do, especially creative shit, you have to approach it like it's a job. Every day you have to set out a chunk of time to write or to record or whatever it is. Every fucking day you need to look at it like, this is my second job. This is the thing that I want to replace my regular job with. And the only way you can do that is by dedicating yourself to it and really working for yourself harder than you work for your regular boss. Because that's there's no other way. Like, you can't just hope for a lucky break. Lucky breaks rarely happen. You have to create your break. You have to create your own opportunities. Especially, like, and then think about things. If you can come up with ideas that don't have a lot of competition, those kinds of ideas are the ones that get me really excited. If you can come up with a business idea or a creative idea, and there's not a lot of stuff out there on the market like that, if it's interesting, dude, that's where that's where the money's at. If you can come up with a concept that isn't already that the market's not already saturated with. You're like, here's the thing that I don't understand. Okay, so just a couple blocks from my house, a new bridal store opened up. They sell fucking dresses and tuxedos and shit for weddings, right? That's all they do. It's a highly specialized industry. All they do is wedding stuff. Every town I've ever lived in has had multiple bridal shops. It's such a saturated market. Somehow these people are making enough money to open their business. I don't know how successful they are, but like I said, every town I've ever lived in has multiple bridal shops. Every town I've ever lived in has had multiple bars. Every town I've ever lived in has had multiple hair salons. Every town I've ever lived in has had multiple shoe stores. It's like those markets are so saturated, and they're still figuring out how to make money. So if you can come up with an idea or a concept that's not even, it doesn't even have to be super unique. It just has to be kind of unique. Something a little bit different. Something that's not so special. I don't know how people make a living running a bridal shop. There are so many bridal shops in America. I don't know how they make money. It seems like it's so common. Like what sets one bridal shop apart from another bridal shop? You know what I mean? They're all the same. I don't understand how somebody's sitting there at home thinking, you know what? I want to open a bridal shop. But the point is, they're doing it. If they're able to get that motivated and excited over that, which in my entire 33 years of life, I've only ever been to a bridal shop one fucking time, and that was so we could rent tuxedos for my mom's wedding, right? So that's a one-time customer. People don't get married that often. So it's not like these people are going to have these repeat customers coming back, a couple of times a year for their new wedding. It just doesn't happen. So if you can come up with a service or a product that keeps people coming back on a regular basis, and it's something that they can't easily get everywhere else, that's an idea you need to really fucking run with. And don't just talk to your family about it, because your family might be like, that's kind of fucking dumb. If you believe in it, run with it. I don't give a shit what anybody else says. If you believe in it, fucking run with it, because somebody out there is gonna want what you have, or want what you're creating, or whatever it is. You know what I mean? I feel like I've just been kind of rambling, but don't limit yourself. Be as creative as possible with your ideas. And even if you want to open a bridal shop, I'm not trying to say don't do that, but open up the coolest fucking bridal shop you've ever seen. You know what I'm saying? I'm telling you right now, in the year 2018, not everybody wants to get married in a fucking white furry dress. You know what I mean? Open a unique gothic style bridal shop, or a historical style bridal shop. People can go and they can buy dresses that are historically accurate for whatever the fucking women wore in London in 1756 or some shit like that. Or do all of them. Fucking open a bridal shop and have people come in who have various tastes, various interests. They want a regular white furry fucking dress, they can get a regular white furry fucking dress. If they want a dress that suits a cemetery wedding, bam, you can fucking provide that service too. If they want to go in there and buy a fucking dress from 1756, provide that fucking service. Make your bridal shop the best fucking bridal shop out there, because that's how you're gonna stand apart, man. Don't just be like, oh, that guy has a bike shop and he's making money. I'm going to copy what he's doing. Take his bike shop idea, but make it fucking cool. Don't just sell bikes. Sell all kinds of other fucking shit related to, outdoor fitness, whatever it is. Make your shit unique. And even if your particular store isn't unique, at least approach your advertising in a unique way. Don't just do what everyone else does. Don't just pay for a radio ad or an ad in the fucking newspaper. Be unique, be creative, catch people's eye, do fucking something different. Here's a perfect example. It's has nothing to do with business advertisement, but I remember in high school, I can't even remember what class it was, but we were talking about building resumes and how to stand out with your resume. Things you could do to make yourself stand out, to make a potential hiring manager really take notice of you and increase your chances of getting hired. And one thing that my teacher mentioned that always stuck with me was this. There's two things, actually. One particular example was a guy who had written a resume that was so ridiculous. Like, he exaggerated so much, and like it was so over the top with his everything that he said his skills were, the jobs that he had. Like, he was so creative with the way he sold himself and his skills that even though the hiring manager knew it was all bullshit, it stuck out so much that he was like, this person has a mind that I want in my business. Even though everything in his resume was bullshit, he fucking put so much creativity into it that I want to hire him. Another guy had applied for a position multiple times and had gotten overlooked. So he decided to rent a billboard, a huge, massive billboard, directly across the street from the manager's office. So when the manager showed up one day and opened his window, the first thing he saw was this fucking billboard. I can't remember what the billboard said, but basically the billboard was like, hey, dude, fucking hire me, right? And that set him apart from everyone else, because nobody else is taking out billboards. If you take out a fucking billboard, that really shows something. That shows initiative, that shows creativity, that shows a drive, that shows passion, that shows you want that fucking job. You want that job bad enough that you went out of your way to come up with a fucking unique idea to get that motherfucker's attention. And so even if the product you're selling is available everywhere, it's how you sell it that really makes a huge difference. So, but also, if you have a unique product and you have a unique way of selling it, that's even better. What I'm trying to say is it doesn't matter what you do. There's always room for creativity in anything, whether it's a bridal shop or it's a job resume. Be creative, think outside of the box, be unique. Even if it doesn't work once or twice, just don't be like everybody else. Stand out. Be as unique as you can. And get people's attention with whatever it is you're trying to do. And I'm running out of time here, but I'm getting back into the podcast, so you can expect more episodes in the future on a regular basis. If you like what I do, you can follow me on Facebook, Positively Insane Podcast. You can follow me on YouTube, Positively Insane Podcast. You can get me on Twitter, Positively IPC. Reach out if you have any topic suggestions, if you'd like to just tell me what you think about the show. If you have suggestions on how I can make the show better, go ahead and contact me. I look forward to that. I love feedback. I'm most active on Facebook, but you can email me at positivelyinsanepodcast@gmail.com. I don't check that very often, so Facebook is the way to go. Anyway, man, be creative, think outside the box, stay passionate, and do your thing, guys. Until next time, take it easy.